One day when heaven was filled with his praises, one day when sin was as black as could be, Jesus came forth, born of a virgin, dwelt among men. My example is he. Word became flesh, the light shined among us, his glory revealed. Living he loved me, dying he saved me, buried he carried my sins far away, rising he justified, free me forever. One day he's coming, oh glorious day, oh glorious day. One day they led him up Calvary's mountain. One day they nailed him to die on a tree. Suffering anguish, despised and rejected, bearing our sins, my Redeemer is he. Hands that healed nations stretched out on a tree. He took the nails for me, living he loved me, dying he saved me, buried he carried my sins far away, rising he justified, he freed me forever. One day he's coming, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, oh glorious day. One day the grave could conceal him no longer. One day the stone rolled away the door. Then he arose, over death he had conquered. Now he's ascended, my Lord. Death could not hold him, grave could not keep him from rising again. Live, love me, dying he saved me, buried he carried my sins far away, rising he justified, free me forever. One day he's coming, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, oh glorious day. One day the trumpet will sound at his coming. One day the skies with his glories will shine. Yes. Wonderful day, my beloved one bringing. Yes, my Savior Jesus, Jesus is mine. Living he loved me, dying he saved me, buried he carried my sins far away, rising he justified, he freed me forever. One day he's coming, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, oh glorious day, oh glorious day. One day is coming.
Yes, yes.
Amen.
Soon. Soon.
You You know, we as humans, we want to hold on to this life as long as we can because this is all we know. Remember when my good friend, Brother Dick, Penny's cousin, went to be with the Lord a few years back. That's Penny. I walked in, I didn't know who she was. I had to look at her twice. Hadn't seen her in a long time. Brother Dick told me somebody asked him, said, how do you feel? He said, I don't know, I've never died before. That was such a sweet testimony. I don't know what to expect. I've never died. Amen? But I've read books of people who have died and had the fortune or misfortune to come back. I said the misfortune to have to come back. You know, most of you know our good friend Brother Carlos Ortiz passed away last week. I sat there on my recliner thinking about I needed to go, but I was in so much pain and it seemed like it got worse throughout the night. It was from 6 to 8 or 4 to 8. It was like 7, something almost 7 o'clock. I said, no, I got to go. I got to put a pair of jeans on, a shirt. I didn't even dress up. Got on my walker and I got there. I walked in and his sister Nilda was speaking. And she sat down, and then his niece wanted to share something, and Brother Gary Reed was there, and he was getting ready to say something. And he says, is there anybody else who would like to say something? And somebody said something from the seat, I believe it was Nilda, his sister. And he says, Tim, did you want to say something? I had just walked in, but she seen me when I walked in. I was all the way in the back. And I says, yeah, I do. So I used my walker, I got up there. Had to maneuver through little small areas. First thing I wanted to say was that I was so happy. I said my first call, I said I got at 8:30 that morning from Rob Miller, who told me that what had happened. I said, I'll be honest with you, I was just numb. It took me 3 days before I shed tears, and this was a young man who was like my best, you know, him and Gary were my best friends for 30 years, 25 years. And it took me 3 days before I could even shed a tear. I was kind of angry. I was angry at heroin. I was angry at addictions. I was angry at him for being a preacher of the word and then leaving the church. And, you know. And finally, I was able to shed a couple tears. But I said, and then a couple days later, Rob called me back and said, Tim, Ricky told me that he was sleeping on the floor that morning. He said that night, he said, Ricky went down and told him, he said, Carlos, come upstairs and get in the bed. He said, no, Carlos. No, Ricky. He was crying. He said, no, Ricky. He said, I'll stand down here to pray. He said, I should be preaching. I'm tired of this life. He said, I should be preaching. I'm tired of this life. And that made me feel so much better to know that even though he died of an overdose that night, he was praying and asking God to have mercy on him and to deliver him. So I shared that a little bit, and then I started to talk about the experience that he had. How when he walked through the veil that keeps this beautiful land concealed to us, that he was met there by his mother and his brother Mario and his son Josh. And how they began to take him for a tour and show him the splendors of heaven. I said, no doubt he's seen James and John. I said, I can imagine him even seeing Moses and say, Moses, how long you been here, Moses? I don't know, a couple hours. Because there's no time in heaven. Even though Moses has been there for 4,000 years, it seems like just a moment for him. How he sensed the presence of Jesus everywhere, but yet he didn't see Jesus. And then suddenly Jesus was in front of him. He says, you have an appointment with the Father. You must go to the throne. The next thing I said, he was prostrate before the throne. I said, because you can't stand in the presence of the Father. And from the throne extended a hand who reached down and picked up Carlos and held him in his arms and rocked him.